Thanks everybody for joining us. Today is our construction season kickoff meeting. This is the second year that we've held a virtual meeting like this to really go over a summary of what we have planned. And it is another big season. So we are going to go over, I've got a little bit of an agenda here. So I'm going to go over some introductions. I'll provide an overview of the 2022 construction season, and then I will share a couple reminders at the end of the presentation. I'll also go over how you can find out more about any of the projects that we talk about today and how you can subscribe to receive some of these updates via email. I'll show you all of that. And then we will open it up to Q&A. We've got a panel of road experts here with us. And so that's the plan for today. So let me start with some introductions. First, my name is Emily Kaiser, and I am the communications manager here at the Washtenaw County Road Commission. And like I said, I'll be the meeting host today. And if you, we'll go through the presentation, then I'll turn it over to our panel of experts for the Q&A period. So with me today, we've got Jim Harmon, who's our director of operations. We have Matt McDonnell, who's our director of engineering and county highway engineer. And we also have Brent Schlack, who is our assistant director of engineering. Right. So a few housekeeping items before we dive into the presentation. So the meeting audio and video is being recorded, and we will post a recording of it to our YouTube channel and also to our website, and I'll show you where, which is wcroads.org. You will be asked to virtually raise your hand during the Q&A period if you want to ask a question verbally. We also have chat enabled. So if you would rather ask a question in chat, you can go ahead and do that. And then I will read those off while we are in the Q&A period, and we can go over those questions in chat. So again, you can ask questions either by virtually raising your hand, and I'll provide instructions as to how to do that, or you can ask your question in chat, and we'll get to those when we get to that part of the agenda. Okay, so with that, I'm going to dive right in and talk a little bit about who we are here at the Washtenaw County Road Commission. We are your county road agency, and so that means that we are responsible for about 1,650 miles of county road. And about half of that, about 740 miles of that, is unpaved. And we know it has been a particularly challenging spring for our unpaved roads this year. I know I am looking forward to the nice weather this week, and I think everybody here is, and hopefully that will help as well. We can talk more about that if people want to talk about that later in the presentation. But we do have a lot of unpaved roads in our system. We have about 126 bridges. We'll talk about those. We have over 2,500 culverts across our system. And we have over 30,000 signs that we are responsible. So that's anywhere from a stop sign to a speed limit sign and all of the road name signs, any of the signs that you see along county roads. We are also contracted to maintain about 600 lane miles of MDOT roads within Washtenaw County. So essentially, if a road is outside of a city or a village, so we don't maintain roads within the city of Ann Arbor, for example, but if it is outside a city or village limit, it is maintained by the Washtenaw County Road Commission for the most part. There's a few private roads out there, but for the vast majority of them, they are public roads maintained by us. And like I said, we are hired as well by MDOT to maintain about 600 lane miles of their roads within the county. So that's like US 12, US 23, I-94. We do routine maintenance out there for MDOT. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what that maintenance looks like, because today we're going to talk about maintenance, but mostly we're going to talk about construction, which is different. And so as needed maintenance in our eyes are any of the things that you see here on this list. So we've been doing a lot of pothole patching this spring, drainage improvements, grading of unpaved roads. We are responsible for storm cleanup, and that, depending on the year and depending on the part of the year, it keeps us very busy. So storm cleanup, whether that is snow plowing after a winter storm or during a winter storm, or if we get a big windstorm or heaven forbid a tornado, we are out there making sure the roads are clear, or trying to clear those roads as quickly as we can, really to help our emergency responders and anybody that needs to use the roads. So storm cleanup is a huge part of our as needed maintenance and a huge part of our responsibility. We also are charged with road hazard removal. So for example, if a deer gets hit on the road and the carcass is in the road, we are the ones that go out and remove that to the side of the road and get it out of the traveled portion of the road. Or if a tree falls across the road, our crews are going out 24/7 to go and respond to that and get that road hazard off the traveled part of the road. Incident response is also part of our services, and that includes if there is a crash, for example, on I-94, or a crash on one of our roads and emergency responders need help managing traffic, we are helping with that. And that also keeps us pretty busy depending on the time of year and what's going on. In addition, we do sign repair, signal work. If you see a missing stop sign, that's us. That's something we want you to call us about immediately. Traffic signal work, we'll talk a little bit about traffic signals, but we maintain our system of traffic signals. We also are hired by MDOT to maintain their traffic signals in the county. So those are really our as needed maintenance, and as requests come in, or as we are, as those items are needed or a response is needed. We also have a category of scheduled maintenance, and these are some examples of those scheduled maintenance practices. So we are getting into the season of dust control, and that's what we have pictured here on the slide. Dust control is an application of liquid brine, and it is put on the roads to try to help minimize dust on our unpaved roads. And that's something that we do on our primary roads. We do that 3 times a year. And on our local roads, our local unpaved roads, it really depends. The number of applications depends on the township, because that's something that the townships contribute for. So anywhere from 2, 3, 4 applications, just depending on the area and the township agreements that we come to. Roadside mowing is another scheduled maintenance. And so that's something that we do every year. On our paved roads, they get mowed twice. And that's typically a 1 pass on the side of the road with a regular, like an industrial mower. We also have our mechanical brush mowers that go for more woody vegetation. And that's something that we're doing as we can and as scheduled. Street sweeping is another one of our scheduled maintenance. And street sweeping we do twice on paved curb roads throughout the county. And that is just getting started this time of year as well. I skipped over on on unpaved roads for mowing. We do that once a year. So typically we will start with mowing on our paved roads, do that first one, then go to unpaved, and then do our second mowing pass on paved roads. Then we also have pavement markings. And so that's something that we try to maintain every 1 to 3 years, depending on the road and depending on the need of that road. But those are all things that are really scheduled. And it's not something that as a resident that you could call and request roadside mowing and we would come, within as resources allow. That's done on a schedule. So dust control is done on a township by township basis. And I'll show you where we put information about where we're working on these types of scheduled maintenance items once we get a little bit further into the presentation. So we've got those scheduled maintenance items. And then we ultimately get into construction projects. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, is the 2022 construction project season. And it is already well underway. And for us, that really involves these 6 different types of treatments for roads. So we have pavement preservation, or just preservation. We've got resurfacing. We have reconstruction, bridges, safety projects, and then there's always other miscellaneous things, and I'll talk a little bit about what that could mean. And so we have a nice freshly seal-coated road here on this picture, and we'll talk about what that means. But those are really the categories of construction projects that we're talking about when we talk about a construction season. So let's dive right in. The 2022 construction season. So first I want to talk about preservation. And so when we talk about pavement preservation or road preservation, really it's designed for pavement that is in good or fair condition. And so we often hear when we are doing this type of work is you're working on the wrong road. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that further into the presentation, but these treatments are really designed, again, for those roads that are in good or fair condition. So it's not that we're working on the wrong road, it's that we're trying to preserve these roads that are in good or fair condition and help extend their life. And so to do that, we use 2 types of treatments for paved roads. The first is crack sealing, and then the second is called seal coat. And that involves both a chip seal and a fog seal. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into these slides. So when we talk about a crack seal, this is a kind of a cross section of what it would look like. It's really trying to address those surface level cracks within a pavement. So if you look at this picture, the very top layer is the asphalt pavement. And so that band of crack seal is really going in and trying to seal those cracks. The reason that this is a really helpful and also pretty cost-effective treatment is it helps to seal the road from water. Water and sunlight are big enemies of any paved surface or of any road surface. And so those are things that we're trying to keep out of a road and trying to help preserve that life of it. So crack seal is not fixing anything, it's not designed to fix anything of the base, or it's not additional asphalt. It's really meant to seal those cracks up against water. A seal coat is slightly different, whereas a seal coat, like I said, for us, that means both a chip seal and a fog seal. And so what we'll do, actually, we're going to start this work next week countywide. But what that is our crews come through, and first they lay a very thin layer of liquid asphalt on the pavement. And then they come immediately after with chips or stones that are placed on top with a big piece of machinery. I've got a picture in just a slide or two. And those are placed on top of that liquid asphalt as the wearing course. So that's the part that you're driving on. Once we do a chip seal, we post advisory speed limit signs asking people to slow down as those chips start to settle. We do a lot of sweeping right after and then before we go to our next phase. But there are some stones there that's why we post that advisory speed. So those stones are one layer, and then we add one more layer. A couple weeks later, we'll come through and we'll add one more layer of that liquid asphalt, a slightly different mix. And that is the fog seal, and that is the very top layer of this picture that we're showing here, this diagram, and that really helps to seal in those chips. And it really helps, we found, it makes the pavement markings really pop and help to further extend the life of that road and further protect that road from water and from sun. We like to say that seal coat is really like sunscreen for the road, and it really, really helps to preserve roads that are in good condition. And we are trying to chip seal or seal coat a road pretty soon after it's been paved. So you'll see this year we're going to be this year we're going to be chip sealing a lot of roads that we just recently paved within the last year or two to try to help preserve that big investment into those asphalt roads. So we've got the seal coat. Got a couple more pictures here. So this is an example of a picture of our chipper. So this is the machine that's putting down those chips on top of that liquid asphalt that was placed, and it's heading towards us. So this is quite the operation when you see it coming down your road. This is what the fog seal truck looks like. And so it is, you can see the sprayer on the back, but that's where we come back a couple weeks later, we do a sweeping, and then we come back and really seal that road one more time with a fog seal. So this is an example of our fog seal tanker truck. So with fog seal, we just started doing this a couple years ago. It's really important that you follow directions if you're driving through one of these areas. I'll talk about this and show you where you can get information about our road updates. But we put out a lot of information to try to help the traveling public know where we're going to be working. And for these fog seal projects, we often do that under lane closures or under a daytime road closure, depending on the road. And so that means that sometimes cars can drive through there. And as that top layer of liquid asphalt is drying, it really, it can't be driven on or you'll get tar on your road. And so we have cars out there, we have trucks out there, just like this is a picture of one we were using last year that says pilot car, follow me. And people have to follow it. And so we have seen where people will try to pass the pilot truck, and then they get their car covered in tar. And so really following the instructions of the crews out there is important, not only for your own safety and well-being of your vehicle, but also the safety of our employees out there working. So just a quick note on fog seal, if you see this, please follow the instructions. We're doing it out there, not to be annoying, but to really, there's a reason that we're flagging in the way that we are, that we're guiding traffic the way that we are. So we just ask for patience when you're come upon us. So the total plan for this preservation part of our program is we plan to chip and fog seal that overarching seal coat to do about 100 miles this year, which is a lot. We are going to be starting next week, and weather pending, and then it'll take us until mid to late July, again, very weather dependent, to get that whole program done where we'll chip seal everything, and then we'll come back around and fog seal that 100 miles again. We also are planning about 70 lane miles of crack seal. And again, that's a really cost-effective treatment to try to help seal water out of these roads. And so you'll see us crack sealing. That work is typically done under lane closures or lane restrictions, but that is about 70 lane miles of that is planned. And this work is funded through a variety of sources, including the county road millage that was renewed by voters in 2020. If anybody has any questions about that, we're happy to talk about the millage, but that has a really great way that we've been able to make a lot of progress on our primary road system in particular is through that county road millage. So then we get into resurfacing, and there's really 3 different types of resurfacing when we talk about asphalt roads. So you can mill and overlay, which I've got pictures and diagrams to show you what that looks like. Mill and overlay is really designed for pavement that is in fair condition. Another treatment is pulverize and overlay, and that's really designed for pavement that is in poor condition. And then the third type is, remember I mentioned that we have almost half of our system is unpaved. So the third type is a limestone or a gravel lift, and that's designed again for unpaved roads, and it's slightly different obviously because they're not paved. So we'll talk about each of these 3 types of resurfacing. So here's a diagram of a mill. And so you can see here that it's a big grinder that's grinding off the first couple inches of asphalt there on our road diagram. And so what it's doing is it's pulling that off and then it's getting trucked away, but it's taking off that wearing course, that top layer of asphalt. This is what a mill looks like in the real world. And so you can see it's a pretty long operation. Right now we're milling on a couple different roads throughout the county. I think we're milling on South Church Road today. And this work is typically done under lane restrictions or lane closures, but it is something that people can still drive on a milled road. But we obviously ask you to use a lot of caution if you're ever in a work zone. But this is what the mill looks like. So then as part of a mill and overlay, we'll come through and we'll put a top layer, and I've got a picture of that in a slide or two. The other type of resurfacing for an asphalt road is a pulverize. So this diagram shows you that we are not just milling the top layer like in the previous one, but we're really getting down into that gravel road base with a pulverizer. I like to think of it as a big like rototiller that's grinding up that asphalt, that's grinding up that top part of the gravel base, and it will be smoothed back out, it'll be graded back out, and that'll really help to form the new base of the road. So then let's see. This is an example of the overlay. So we've got the pulverized, we've got a surface either milled or pulverized. In this case, on this picture, it was milled. And now we have, this is our paving equipment. So you can see from the person in this picture, he is measuring, it is both an art and a science, but this paver is putting down an overlay of asphalt. When we do a mill and overlay, typically we're putting back 1 layer or 2 layers, depending on the road. And then a pulverize is typically 2 layers of varying, and the width or the depth depends on the road as well. And Matt, Jim, or Brent could talk more about that if you want to talk about specific roads. But yeah, this is what an overlay looks like. There is a time after the pavement is put down that nobody can drive on it, but that's a pretty short time as it's cooling down. But as you can imagine, it's a pretty hot operation as they're doing it typically in the summer. So this is what our paver looks like. We are planning to do, oh wait, let me go back here. We already have some roads that have paved. We just reopened Moon Road, which was a pulverize and resurface project. We opened that on Friday. So our paving season is already well underway, even though it's early May. So we are making progress already. Another type of resurfacing, as I mentioned, is that limestone or gravel resurface. Here are a few pictures from out in the field last year. And so you can see we're adding additional material. Generally before a limestone or gravel resurface, we find the best results are if we go through ahead of time and do berming and drainage work, if we trim back the trees, if there's a canopy to really help open the road up to the sun, get airflow moving, because we really want to help keep water off the road. So with a limestone or gravel lift, as you can see in this picture, they're adding a lot of material. In our next picture, you'll see that we've got a grader comes through and they'll grade the road. We'll apply dust control, that liquid brine. And really it's meant to raise the road up, get the water off of it. We add a crown to it, and it gives us material to work with through the whole year as we're shaping unpaved roads throughout the year. And so this is a less expensive treatment than like paving a road, for example, but it still requires a significant investment. And so limestone and gravel is another type of resurfacing that we do here. So this is our planned program for 2022. We're planning to resurface about 30 miles of asphalt road. And then we're planning to do limestone gravel lifts on approximately 55 miles. These are funded through a variety of sources, including revenue from federal and state fuel taxes, the county road millage, townships. Road funding is a complicated tale, and so we're happy to talk more about that if you have specific questions about a specific project or types of road funding. But in general, we are very good at spending all the money that we can find. It's a matter of not enough money to make all the improvements we'd like to make. But this is our plan for this year. Before we move on, I just want to mention one thing about limestone and gravel resurfacing. So we're really raising the road. So we often will get calls from residents that are like their driveway no longer meets the road because we've now added 6 to 8 inches of limestone or gravel. And so that's something just to be aware of. That's up to the responsibility of that property owner because it's their driveway. But that is something to kind of keep in mind as we are talking about unpaved road resurfacing projects. Okay, so that's our resurfacing program. Then we get into reconstruction. So as we were talking here today, we started out with the most cost-effective in that preservation, the least expensive projects, crack seal, seal coat, and then we get into our resurfacing. Those are much more expensive than preservation, but middle of the road compared to something like a reconstruction. So reconstruction is removing all the pavement to the base or the sub-base of a road. It's correcting drainage problems, sub-base problems. It's really designed for roads that are in poor condition, that if we are paving an unpaved road, for example, that's never been paved, or that we're doing major intersection improvements. And as you can imagine from this description, reconstruction is very expensive. To pave a mile of unpaved roads, we're seeing anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million plus per mile to pave an unpaved road. So we don't do a ton of reconstruction. Most of our work is done through that preservation or that the resurfacing. But we do some. Over the last couple of years, we've been working to pave sections of Z Road, which is an unpaved road, a primary road in Lodi Township and Scioto Township. But this year, our reconstruction is going to be about intersections. So we have 3 roundabouts that are going in Washtenaw County this year on county roads. So the first is at Liberty Road at Zeeb Road. We just had the public meeting about this one, a virtual public meeting last week to talk about the construction schedule, but this one will start in mid-June. Whenever we do a roundabout project, it is a full closure. So the Liberty at Zeeb Road roundabout will be closed for approximately 8 weeks once we start the roundabout construction. So that's a single lane roundabout going in there. We also have a single lane roundabout going at the intersection of Pontiac Trail and North Territorial Road in Salem Township. That is also planning to start in mid-June. We will have the construction information meeting for that one in early June. We're working on sending out that information, hopefully today, about the dates for that. We sent letters last week to impacted residents right there. So we've got these 2 big roundabouts these are projects the Washtenaw County Road Commission is administering this year. There will be a roundabout built at the intersection of 8 Mile Road and Curry Road. And that is on the border of Salem Township and Oakland County. And that is underway now. That project started in mid-April. There is a huge project planned by Oakland County along Curry Road, including 8 Mile, including at 9 Mile Road. So there's a lot of construction going on up there, but the part that impacts Washtenaw County is this roundabout at 8 Mile and Curry Road. And that project is administered by the Road Commission for Oakland County. So we are contributing to the intersection project there on our border, but the rest of the project and the project itself is being administered by the Road Commission for Oakland County. So we've got those roundabouts, and those are all considered reconstructs. And like I said, we've had construction information meetings, or we will have, about each of these. So if you want to learn more, we'd really encourage you to check those out. And I can show you where you can find out more information on our website. As I mentioned at the start, bridges are a really important part of the assets that we manage here at the Washtenaw County Road Commission that we own. And we own 126 bridges throughout the county, and they are in a variety of conditions: good, fair, poor. And by law, we inspect our structures at least every 2 years, our bridges. And then we have a range of treatments that we do for bridges based on funding availability and need. But these treatments range from deck preservation to a full replacement. Last year we had a couple bridges that we were able to replace. This year, in our 2022 bridge program, we have 2 big rehabilitation projects. So we will be closing East Delhi Road Bridge in Scioto Township for about 2 weeks. And then we'll also be closing the Maple Foster Road Bridge in Ann Arbor Township for about 12 weeks. And those projects will start this summer. We are going to be repainting, spot repainting on East Delhi Road. We're going to be totally repainting and doing a lot of other things on Maple Foster Road bridges. These are historic 1-lane bridges. They are steel truss bridges, unique to this area, and I think unique to the state. And so they require a full closure for us to be able to work on them because they only have that 1 lane of travel. We just held a public information meeting about these projects a couple of weeks ago as well. And again, I'll show you where you can find out more about these, but these are our 2 big bridge rehabilitation projects planned this year for construction or for rehab. And the goal of this painting in this project is to really help extend the life of these bridges. These are over 100 years old, and so they need regular maintenance in order to stay in the condition that they are. Culverts are another big part of our responsibility here at the Road Commission. I mentioned at the start that we own over 2,500 culverts of various sizes and various conditions. And culverts can be small. They can be a pipe going under the road that's just 1 foot in diameter, or they can be much larger than that. And so you've got a picture here of a much larger pipe here, but they help to convey water and to support road drainage. And so we inspect the larger structures at least every 4 years. So that's an ongoing inspection process that we are undergoing on these bigger culvert structures. In road world, anything under 20 feet in span is considered a culvert. Anything over that is considered a bridge. So that's kind of that magic number when we're talking about road structures. Oh, before I move on, so we have a lot of culvert projects planned, and like I said, they are of various sizes. We're happy to talk about if anybody's got specific questions about culverts and where we're going to be working. We have a few of the big ones on our project map that I'll show you, but there's a lot of culvert projects planned this year. We've actually already been able to complete a few into the season 2. So if you've got questions about culverts, we'd be happy to talk about that during the Q&A. Okay, so then another really important asset that we manage is our traffic signals. So when we are doing construction type work on our traffic signals, it's really a couple different things. It could be a new signal going in where there was not a traffic signal before. It could be upgrading the signal depending on the technology or depending on the configuration. It can be a different type of upgrade. We're also placing flashing beacons in a couple spots, and those are helping to draw attention to the intersection, however it is now. So whether it's a 4-way stop, a 2-way stop, those flashing beacons are meant to help alert people to the intersection. And these traffic signal projects, they are funded from a variety of sources, including revenue from federal and state fuel taxes, county road millage, townships, like I said, a variety of sources. So on our traffic signal program, we're putting in new traffic signals where there has not been one before at Pittsfield Township. This is at Lore in Textile Road. I believe that work is ongoing right now. We also will be placing one at the intersection of Bemis Road and Carpenter Road. This is a project that we actually started last year. We have seen a ton of carryover work, especially in our traffic signals, due to a lot of different supply issues. So we did some intersection improvements at Bemis and Carpenter in preparation for the traffic signal last year. Also paved sections of Bemis Road, and then we will complete that work this year. They are getting very close to having that one done and that traffic signal operational. So we've got those 2 new signals. We also are upgrading 2 existing signals. So one at Ann Arbor Township, which is Dixboro Road at Plymouth Road, and then one in Pittsfield Township, which is Textile Road at Maple Road. And both of these projects we were hoping to do last year, but they have been carried over into 2022, again, due to those supply issues. But we're getting closer. If you've got questions about these, we'd be happy to talk about either one of these into the Q&A period. But those will be upgrading those 2 traffic signals. We also will be installing new flashing beacons. So we've got one going in at Schneider Road and Bethel Church Road in Freedom Township. And then we have another one going in York Township at Platt Road and Willow Road. And that is right now we've got Platt Road closed for a paving project. And so that is in conjunction with that work, depending on supply, but those flashing beacons will be placed this year in the construction season. And we've got a picture of one here on the slide example. Another type of project or really funding source that we work hard to bring to Washtenaw County are safety projects. And so safety projects, we address these safety, or we use a safety project as needed and when the funding allows. And treatments for a safety project can range from installing a center left turn lane to enhanced pavement markings to a roundabout. I mean, there's a lot of different types of safety projects that could potentially be funded by grants. So in 2022, we do have a safety project on the Dexter Town Hall Road in Dexter Township, and that will include a couple things. Most notably, it'll include a high friction surface on the curves to try to help keep the traveling public on the traveled portion of the road. And then also we'll do some enhanced curve signage there to try to help improve the safety along that corridor. And this project is funded by a federal and state safety grant that we received. So our staff are very good at hunting for grant dollars, and these are all competitive grants that we have been awarded and are bringing these funds to Washtenaw County. And we've been very successful at implementing these safety projects over the last decade or so. So we're excited about this one. There's a lot of other projects that we have planned as well. So we, as a, it's called an Act 51 agency, we can receive federal funds. And there's a program called the Transportation Alternatives Program, the TAP grant. And so that is for non-motorized projects. So we partner with different townships or the Parks Department, the Parks Commission to help administer those. It's not that road funding is going to these projects, but we're involved just from like a paperwork standpoint. So these are some of the non-motorized partner projects. The Dixboro Road Pathway started last year and ran into some of those supply issues. So that's mostly done, but we're getting closer to the end of that. Here on River Drive and Platte Road Greenway are all under different variations of, or different stages of construction or design. Some other just kind of other projects under our purview, other miscellaneous projects, is we do a lot of guardrail replacement. So you can see in this picture, this is guardrail replacement on M14, but our crews, and then we also hire a contractor to help with guardrail replacement. We're putting new guardrail where there hasn't been some before. And we're also, most of it is replacing guardrail that has gotten damaged. So we have hired a contractor to do a lot of this work this year. And actually most of their work has been wrapped up for the year, which is great. So they were able to get out there early this spring and even in the winter to get some of that work done. Another thing that you will see out on the roads is a lot of permitted work. So as the road agency in charge of the public road right-of-way, we are a permitting agency. So if there is a utility project or there is all sorts of different projects that are going in, a development going in, they're working through the road commission to have permitted work. And then the work is being done by a contractor for that permittee. We are just making sure it's done in a safe manner and to the specifications needed for road safety. So you'll see a lot of permitted work out there on the roads this season too. So that's really an overview of the season. I know we're giving you a lot of information. We will share all the ways that you can find out more about each of these things as we go through this presentation. But one of the main questions that we get when we talk about a construction season is really how are projects selected? And I mentioned at the start, sometimes we hear, hey, you're fixing the wrong road, or, why are you doing this road? What about this road? And so we just wanted to talk briefly about how projects are selected. And Matt, Jim, or Brent can talk a lot more about this if you want to get into the nitty gritty. We'd be happy to help with you with that during the Q&A or even after the meeting too. Essentially, our strategy for picking projects is that we're really trying to focus on preventative maintenance. So we are trying to apply the right fix at the right time in the right place. And so much like you would maintain your car or maintain your house, there are some things, there's some type of maintenance that is low expense, maybe an oil change. And if you don't do those low expense things over time, you would need to replace your whole engine. Or for example, if you are, maintaining your roof every so often, as the roof ages, you have to replace the whole thing. And so we're really trying to find the right fix and help to preserve those roads in good or fair condition, and then ultimately working our way through that maintenance schedule. So that's really how we that's the thought process. It's that just idea of preventative maintenance. The way that we think about this is really detailed in what's called an asset management plan. And last year we released our first official one. We've been doing this type of planning for a long time, but Now every road agency is required to create an asset management plan for every 3 years. So we publicize that. That is available on our website if you really want to read more about road funding and how we are thinking about our asset management of all the different assets that we manage here at the Road Commission. But really the idea is that preventative maintenance, that trying to keep roads in good or fair condition, in that good or fair condition, and then fixing the roads that are in poor condition as we can. But it really boils down to this asset management plan, and I'd encourage you to check it out. It's not it's kind of a dry read, but we tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. So we've got that information on our website. Then let's talk a little bit about scheduling. So that's another question that we also often get is, when are you going to be here? Why isn't it done yet? You know, just a lot of questions about scheduling. So typically in Michigan, the construction season runs from mid-April through mid-November. It's very weather dependent. It's very temperature dependent. We need both dry road bases and consistent warmer temperatures in order to conduct most of our work. A lot of the work that we do, especially bridge work, for example, is subject to pretty strict environmental restrictions. So that can really impact when projects can start or when projects can take place. And there are off-season projects that occur, but they present a different set of challenges. So I think it's fair to say the vast majority of the construction type work that we're talking about, the preservation, the resurfacing, the reconstruction, is taking place during this mid-April to mid-November. So another thing to mention about scheduling is that it is very weather dependent. We can say that. I think I've probably already said that 10 times today, and I will continue to say it. But our work is very weather dependent. And so, for example, rain will delay paving, it will delay seal coat. There's some things we can do in the rain, but paving is not one of them. And so when we do our best here in the communications department to put out information ahead of time, but then, you know, if it rains, schedules, all bets are off. So we try to strike that balance of informing the public, but also we have to be flexible and to get the work done. So very weather dependent. It's also complicated. So there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to scheduling. There are some of those environmental restrictions or considerations that I mentioned. There is utilities that may be buried underground or overhead that need to be relocated ahead of our work, or at least they need to be located ahead of that work. We have to coordinate, we do our best to try to coordinate with other projects. We are not the only municipality doing road work. And so trying the best we can to coordinate. Road work requires specialized equipment that can break down. And so if a paver breaks down or a pulverizer breaks down, it can throw off the whole schedule for a bit. We are also seeing supply challenges. And so over the last couple of years, it's been an unusual couple of years to say the least. And so we are seeing supply challenges. I mentioned, for example, on our traffic signal projects. So there's a lot of moving parts. It's not as simple as just sending a crew out to do something. There's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes. And a lot of these are weather dependent, as I said again. So when we talk about scheduling, I'll show you where you can find out more and how we share information about what we have planned that week, but you should read everything with a big caveat because of that weather dependency. So let's also talk about work zone safety, and I promise we're getting closer to the Q&A period here. But work zone safety is a topic that we cannot stress enough. In 2020, which is the latest year that data is available, there were 14 people killed in work zones in Michigan, and there were a couple killed here in Washtenaw County. Fortunately not like Washtenaw County Road Commission crews, but a life lost is a life lost. And so there are 14 in 2020, and there were so many more near misses. So this is a really important topic. It's not just about us, it's about all of us getting home safely every day. These are just some pictures that we've taken over the last couple of years of people violating our work zones, or, you know, putting our safety and their safety at risk. So here you've got a van that drove through multiple barricades and then got stuck when it fell off the pavement, where you can see this is I believe a pulverized road where it's missing pavement. This is a picture from Ann Arbor Saline Road in 2020, where someone drove through multiple barricades, past multiple large pieces of equipment that were blockading the road as a closure, and then drove through and caused about $20,000 worth of damage to this concrete as it was curing. This also put the project, I think it delayed it like 3 or 4 weeks, and it was a huge cost. And so this person was clearly frustrated with the zone and frustrated with the closure, but their actions only delayed the work, and we are very fortunate that nobody was hurt while this happened. So this is a really, I think, stark example. Here's another picture. This was taken a couple years ago. Actually, we had a bridge inspector out, and this box truck drove through multiple road closure barricades and ended up hitting the inspector's vehicle. And then you can see what happened to their truck. Luckily, our inspector was not in the vehicle, but nobody was injured, amazingly. But these are all pictures that were taken in Washtenaw County in our own work zones that could have caused a fatality, or it's hard to stress how we need the public to give us room to work and to abide by these road closure signs. I think it's tempting. I'm a driver as well, to think, oh, that must not apply to me. Like, I think I can get around, or they must not really mean it. But if the road says it's closed, it's really closed, and it does apply to you. So we please abide by these. If you live within that area, that's a small exception, and we will get you to your house. But if you see a road closed, it applies to you. And we're doing that, again, I can't stress this enough, we're doing that to protect ourselves, but also to protect you as the motoring public. And we're trying to get this work done as quickly as we can. There's a lot going on. We understand that. People get frustrated, but they also get frustrated when the roads aren't fixed. And so we're trying to fix them with as little pain as possible, and we all want to go home every night as well. So please abide by these road barricades, road closures, as you see them, or lane restrictions, whatever the signage may be. So our last section here is to talk about construction communications. And as I mentioned, we work really hard to put out a lot of information to the public about where we're going to be working and what's going on these projects, to try to help you understand and better know, be more knowledgeable about the work we have planned. So I'm going to run through the different ways you can connect with us, and then I'll pause my screen share here and I'll show you where you can find this information on the website. So as I mentioned, we have our website, which is wcroads.org. There's a link available in the chat. I'll share it again in a few minutes. But on our website, we have a lot of really great information. So it's something that we're updating pretty much every day. We have a map of the current major projects going on. We have FAQs on all sorts of different topics, from construction to winter maintenance to potholes. You can submit a WCRC fix-it request. We have an app where you can give us a request for pothole patching or any of those as-needed services that I mentioned, that add needed maintenance. You can submit permit applications on our website. Our permit applications are 100% online now. You can go 100% virtual or digital with those applications. You can subscribe to receive road-related updates, so road advisories via email of the road work in your area if you're interested. This is a screenshot, and like I said, I'll show you our website here in just a second, but this is a screenshot of our current projects map on our website. So you can see, not only did I say we have a lot going on, you can visually see we have a lot going on, and many of these projects are already underway or getting close to being underway. We also put out on our website a weekly roadwork schedule. So every Thursday, we are putting out a schedule that includes major projects that impact traffic. So it's posted to our website. Again, that's wcroads.org. It's emailed to anybody who has subscribed to receive that. It's also posted to our social media, which we are on both Facebook and Twitter with our weekly roadwork schedule. Here is a screenshot of the latest one. So we published one on Thursday, and there are, I think, 5 pages worth of items on there. Anything from, you can see that first line, we've got dust control starting, and we have mowing that'll go on there, which township we're working on there. And then it has all sorts of other road related work that we have going on. So it's really meant to be a helpful tool to you as the public and as road users to know where we're going to be working that week. We also have office hours, so anybody, if they've got questions, are welcome to reach out to us. Right now, we are in our summer schedule, which means we are open Monday through Thursday, and we work 10-hour days. So we work 6 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So you can always call us during those times. If you want to leave us a voicemail after those hours, we'll get back to you. But this is our main line, and our team can try to help you answer your questions. We also, as I mentioned, we have an app. It's called WCRC Fix-It, and that's where you can submit a service request through this app. You can download the app. You can do it through our website. You can also call us, and when you put a request in through the phone, we'll put it through the same site, so they're all in one spot. The great thing about WCRC Fix It is that you can subscribe to receive these updates. So as your pothole request, for example, as it's being investigated and then closed out, you're getting email alerts of that work from the person involved with it. So from the foreman, for example, or the project manager, depending on what the issue is. If you ever want to learn more about us or you want to reach out to our board, the Washtenaw County Road Commission is governed by a board of road commissioners. So we are governed by 5 appointed road commissioners, and they meet on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of every month. And that's at 1 p.m. And that is either you can join us in person here at 555 North Zeeb Road, or you can join us virtually on Zoom. We have both of those options. And in either option, you can make public comment during the public comment part of the agenda. We also do a chat with the road commission, and this is really meant to be a virtual office hours. So every Wednesday from noon to 1, every week of the year, we host these chats, and it's really a much more informal way for you to talk with road commission leadership. Typically, it is one of our road commissioners and then our managing director or one of our other directors talking with the public. You're welcome to RSVP to these. The RSVPs just get you in line, or you don't have to RSVP and you can join, and then those are one-on-one chats. So when it's available, then they'll let you into the virtual room. So that's a really great way to have more of an informal conversation with our road commission leadership. So before we get into Q&A, let me pause my screen share here for a second. And I'm going to show the website. So our website, I've said this again multiple times, is wcroads.org. And we are, as I mentioned, we're updating this almost daily. It has a lot of really great information. On our homepage here, you can see you can go right here to click to report a road issue. You can apply for a permit. We have a few job openings, so you can apply to join our team here. If you keep scrolling, you can see our latest roadwork updates, our weekly roadwork schedule. When we do, we have individual road closure advisories that we put out. You can also click here to join, to explore our interactive map, which I'll show you in just a minute. We also do project updates. We have our news and meeting notices. So you can see our virtual public meetings that we have coming up or our board meetings coming up. So there's just a lot of information on our website. We have our FAQ section here. And you can see we've got FAQs on a variety of topics, including construction and winter maintenance. If we go to this roadwork and construction section, you can go to the current projects page. And there's a link here to this meeting. This is where I will post the recording of today's meeting if you want to watch it again or share it with somebody that wasn't able to join us. But you can see here's our interactive current projects map for our major projects on primary roads. And any of these blue or red, the red dots or the blue segments, you can click on these and it'll take you to a project page to learn more about it. So for example, I just sent out a project update about this one, but this is Liberty and Zeeb Road roundabout. You can see when the construction is expected, description, funding source. You can see we had a public meeting about it. You can see the links to slides, the meeting recording, the detour map, who the contact information is, who's the project manager there, right out here on that project page. You can also click here to subscribe to receive project updates. So if you're interested in learning more and wanting to learn about the construction throughout the process, you can do that on that project. We also offer road advisories that are more general. So if you're looking for advisories on things going on in Ann Arbor Township, just road work going on, you can click here and just get information about Ann Arbor Township. If you love roads as much as we do and you want to know about everything we're doing across all 20 townships, you can do that too. So you would just fill this out on what you're interested in learning. You can get the weekly roadwork schedule. You can get information about bid invitations or requests for proposals, weight restrictions. Just let us know what information you want, and you can get those via email. Like I said, there's a lot of great information on the website. We also have information about our board here, about how to find out how to join a board meeting, where you can see our meeting agendas, meeting packets. All that information is available on our website. So let me go back to our presentation. And I think we're going to hand it over to do some Q&A here. Let's see. So as I said at the start, we have our panel of road experts here with us. Let me make sure Brent is a co-host here. There you go, Brent. And so today we've got Jim Harmon, who's our Director of Operations. We have Matt McDonnell, who's our Director of Engineering and County Highway Engineer. And we also have Brent Schlack, who's our Assistant Director of Engineering. And they are here to answer what road questions you may have. And so to do that, there's a couple ways that you can ask these questions. So first, you want to make sure you've clicked, you've joined the audio for this meeting, which it looks like everybody has on my list here. And then if you want to ask your question verbally, we ask that you raise your hand. So look for the reactions button and then the raise hand button. And then if you dialed into this meeting from your touch-tone phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. If you'd rather ask your question in chat, you're welcome to do that too, and I will read that out loud to our panel here. But we do have one question in chat and we've got one raised hand, so we can dive right in. Let's first go to our chat because that one came in first. Brenda asks, how much does MDOT pay the road commission for maintenance? I believe related to the state trunk line. Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about that contract?
Sure, thank you, and I appreciate the question. We've been a contract county, as most road commissions are, with MDOT since right after World War II. And to answer your question directly, current budget provides slightly over $3 million to the road commission annually. That includes our costs and expenses for winter maintenance and non-winter maintenance. Non-winter may be repairing guardrail that's been damaged along M14, or restoring damaged cable barrier along I-94 as examples. We also subcontract on behalf of MDOT for street sweeping and also roadside mowing along the trunk line system. Again, as Emily had said earlier, outside the incorporated villages.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so we've got two raised hands. Let's start with Pam. Pam, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you, Emily, and another good meeting. I appreciate it. So I actually have a question, because when you did the slides of the street lights, it reminded me that at Zeba 994, last fall, we had the posts put in, the metal posts put in. It looked like you're going to change the lights at Zeb and I-94 in front of Baxter's. But you put in the poles last fall, but I see no more movement in construction on that. Can you tell me a timeline for that?
Thank you. Pam and Matt can help me out here too, because I think that's a permitted, or I think that's a MDOT project, right? So those signals, because they are coming, it's the exit ramp from I-94. I believe that is an MDOT project. Those signals are owned by MDOT. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, that was a MDOT project. MDOT hired a contractor to upgrade the existing traffic signal. They changed it from, I believe, a diagonal to a box span. So they put new poles where the wire was then strung, so that they ultimately upgraded all the equipment there at that intersection. So it really didn't change dramatically, just the equipment and the type of signal was changed from a diagonal span to a box span. And Brent, if you've got anything else, I know Brent, our Assistant Director of Engineering, manages our traffic and safety section, and certainly has a lot of also maintenance activities. We maintain a lot of MDOT signals as well, so you may have something to add.
No, Matt, you covered it. Yeah, it's an MDOT project and they're handling it.
Yeah, we don't know any type of timeline. Are they mostly done with that, Brent? Do you know?
Yeah, they're close to being done with that. I believe they're waiting on some of that material delays. I'd have to follow back up with them, but I believe that's why they're being delayed.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the traffic signals we've seen are particularly impacted by supply chain issues. So thank you for the question, Pam. I'm glad you enjoyed the meeting. We've got a raised hand here from Chris Olson. Let's see, Chris, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yes, hi. Thanks.
Hi.
I have a question about the chip seal process. As a bicyclist, when we turn the corner and see the chip seal on the road, we get very disgruntled because it really does a number on the pleasure of bicycling. And I know this is true, not just for me. So my question, I understand what you're saying about the proactiveness, how it's preventative. And I have a question about, have there been studies of the efficacy of doing it, first of all? And secondly, I know I'm probably wrong about this, but I feel like having biked and driven in other counties in Michigan, including, Livingston and Oakland, I haven't seen it in those counties. I'm sure maybe I just haven't noticed it, but I just like you to address that. And just as a measure of input, it's really rough for the bicyclists. And I don't know if there's something that could be done. Like, I feel like when they did Huron River Drive some time ago, they left the bit of shoulder there free of the chip sealing. And I don't know if there could be strategies like that done to help us out. So that's my input.
Thank you for your question, Chris. Jim, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for asking that question. Yes, the efficacy has been studied at the federal level, state level, and by county road agencies, our own agency included. We find that if we seal coat asphalt pavement when it is in fair or good condition, we can extend the life of that expensive asset by 5 to 7 years. So it's quite common. You'll see us revisiting these types of asphalt roads on that cycle, some even more frequently. And as Emily said at the onset, we are able to resurface many of these asphalt roads, and then you'll see us come in immediately the next year and put a seal coat on it. Again, that thin veneer to preserve that underlying pavement, that expensive investment, and extend that life 5 to 7 years. She also mentioned the seal coat, the overarching seal coat moniker being first chip seal and then fog seal. And in part, one of several reasons that we incorporated the fog seal is that further extended that preventive maintenance investment by 1 to 2 years at relatively low cost. And there were a lot of inherent safety benefits from that as well. But it was also in part in response to our bicycling community, our non-motorized community. And that extra application of liquid asphalt helps fill in those nooks and crannies and soften that surface slightly. It's not as severe and as coarse as it is with the chip seal alone. And we do hear from our bicycling community still, they wish that we could just put fresh asphalt down, but the relative cost of that makes that cost prohibitive. Huron River Drive certainly is a very favored bicycle route in Washtenaw County for obvious reasons, right along the scenic Huron River. And that was one of the first roads that we began using that fog seal. This year, we're presently milling the piece of Huron River Drive, Chris, from Zeeb over to Mast Road, and that's in the process of being resurfaced. And next year, we'll come in and put that seal coat on top of that. So it's kind of a wash, rinse, repeat type method with the seal coat program. I hope that answers your questions. I recognize that you wish the surface was smoother. We're doing the best we can with limited resources to maintain and preserve these expensive road assets.
Yeah, and I think just to continue what Jim was saying, so just to give everybody a reference, chip sealing, we see anywhere from our seal coat, rather, that chip and fog seal, I think we're estimated about $33,000 a mile. Is that right, Jim?
That's correct.
5. Okay. And then, but to resurface, to do that mill and overlay, we're seeing anywhere from $170,000 to $200,000 per mile plus, depending on the road. So it's a huge cost difference. So if we can help to preserve those really big investments pretty cost effectively, we definitely will. I think the other thing that we really try to do with our communications, the other reason that we spend so much time putting out advisories, putting out that weekly roadwork schedule, is to help bicyclists, motorcyclists know where we're going to be and help them to avoid those. So if there's another route that you can take as those chips are settling before we can come in and fog it, that is another goal of trying to get that information out there so you know where to avoid. But it's definitely a necessary thing that we feel is really important for our road system. So thanks, Jim. Okay, so we've got a couple questions in chat. This is coming from Lois, and this is, I had mentioned briefly about how we're raising roads when we are doing a limestone lift on an unpaved road. Jim, can you talk a little bit about what homeowners are, like what part of that is homeowners, what part of that is road commission to meet that new road height? That was Lois was asking that question.
That's a great question. Thank you, Lois. When we're resurfacing our unpaved roads with, typically in the west side of the county, it's gravel and limestone elsewhere. really these roads have down cut over a long period of time, and the road elevation is anywhere from 4 to as much as we've seen 18 inches below where it once was. And why does that happen? It's from traffic, weather, grading operations, winter maintenance. It's just the material. It's a soft surface road, so the material is lost over a period of time. And we understand that. And as a result, the road surface becomes lower than the driveway connections to the road. It's possible the timing of a new driveway may be constructed so that it meets the road pretty well. And then along comes the road commission with an unpaved road resurfacing project. And we put a fresh lift of limestone or gravel, whatever the case may be, on the road. We restore the crown of the road so that water sheds from the center out to the roadside to the natural drainage courses. And in raising that road, in some cases, that road surface is now higher than that earlier connection, that driveway connection. We are able, with our grading operations, to put in a relatively short ramp to connect that driveway a little better. If the driveway is paved, we'll tend to meet that edge of pavement. But that's the extent of that resurfacing. And beyond that, it's really the burden and responsibility of that property owner to make any further adjustments to their driveway under those types of heavy maintenance activities. That's a term and condition of the permit that was granted by the road commission at some point in the past, authorizing the connection to the road. Our focus is on the road, and the property owner's responsibility would largely be the driveway. Now, if the road's being completely reconstructed, then that's a whole different ballgame. Driveways, commercial driveways, residential driveways, road approaches are typically more thoroughly modified to connect to that new completely rebuilt roadway. But again, that fresh lift of gravel or limestone is resurfacing, it's preservation, it's a restoration of the surface due to material lost over a period of time.
Thank you, Jim. So we have a hand raised. So Patrick, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I have done so.
Hi, Patrick.
All right.
Go ahead with your question.
All right. My question is, what does the road commission, what does the road commission expect from this voluntary committee through Dexter Township?
Oh, the Dexter Township Road Committee. Jim,
Yep.
do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. It's collaboration, it's community input, it's concerned residents that would be assigned to that local roads committee to help identify need, work with the road commission. It's also for public education. And ultimately, on an annual basis, we're looking to partner with each of our 20 townships and enter into formal agreement for the most part, it's improvements to our local road system. And in some cases, townships will also invest in our primary road system. So what we're looking for, Patrick, is the opportunity to improve our relationship. Our relationship is good, but to really enhance it and expand that relationship, to engage Dexter Township and this committee with some regularity in assigning priorities, helping educate on relative costs for a variety of improvements that the community may desire. And ultimately, that would culminate in formal agreements, typically in February, March of each year, which would include our local dust control program and limestone gravel resurfacing, drainage, tree trimming, even asphalt milling and overlays, pulverization and resurfacing, chip seal. Any and all of those activities are possible candidates for formal agreement with the community.
Okay. Question unrelated to what we just discussed. I seem to recall, it might be decades ago, that they had a separate gas tax for bicycle lanes. Do you know if that is true, and is it still continuing?
Ooh, I'm not aware of that. Jim or Matt, I've never heard of a special tax for bicycle lane lanes.
think it's been talked about, but really non-motorized use, legitimate authorized non-motorized use of our public roads, that's really part of our Michigan transportation funding. And in fact, we're compelled to expend a certain amount of that on an ongoing basis on non-motorized activity. So it could be bike lanes, it could be widened shoulders that bicyclists certainly benefit from, resurfacing, and on and on and on. Beyond that, Emily mentioned the TAP grant, so federal investments that could go toward these types of alternative infrastructure. Local investments certainly help complement our Michigan transportation funds to help enhance those types of amenities as well. But I'm not aware of a separate motor fuel tax in the state of Michigan specifically for that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Patrick asked some good questions about road funding, and it is a complicated subject. Let me go back to our website here for a second and show, if you're interested, Jim had mentioned, we didn't really get into that in this meeting because we were focusing on the construction season, but really talking about primary versus a local road. And there are different funding restrictions depending on the classification of that road. And so on a road like North Territorial Road, that is a primary road, and that is under the sole jurisdiction to maintain by the Washtenaw County Road Commission. Local roads, it's a more complicated thing. So a lot of the subdivision roads, local unpaved roads. And so we've put together a lot of information about road funding. If you want to learn more, Patrick, if you want to learn more, or just anybody, the page I'm showing you on our website right now is all about our townships. And so each year we put together a booklet of information specific to a township about their local road system, or the local road system in their township. So you can see here, I've got Dexter Townships. I would highly recommend checking this out and reading through this. We go into a lot of detail about local roads versus primary roads and the challenges facing that system. And so we won't go into the weeds here in this presentation, but if you're interested, I'd highly encourage you to check this out to learn more about funding. We also have a lot of information. We have a road funding section in our FAQs to check that out. There's just a lot of, and it's an election year, so there's a lot of information about road funding going on. So we'd really encourage you to check that out. But as Jim said, I'm not aware of a road or a bicycle lane tax like that you're talking about. So, okay, let me get back to the presentation here. We've got a couple questions in chat. Get back here. Okay, so let's see. Lois has another question, and this is about sight distance at intersections. So she is wondering, is the county, Washtenaw County, responsible for enhancing visual needs at intersections? So like she's used the example of Fleming at Dexter Town Hall at Island Lake Road, that it's a safety issue when it's hard to see around trees at a curve or trees at an intersection. Brent, you want to talk a little bit about sight distance?
Sure. Sight distance, we measure, and I appreciate the question, Lois. We, whenever we get a request, and I would encourage you, if there are issues that you're seeing, please submit a WCRC fix it. We can go out and evaluate that. We do that based on, it's called AASHTO, it's the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, is that guide. And that is based on the speed of the roadway, and we measure so many feet out based on how much sight you should have. We offset that from the white line. Typically, a driver would sit about 10 to 15 feet back from the edge of the pavement, the edge of the adjoining road, and then we measure that distance. So a lot of times we get concerns where I'm stopped at the stop bar and I can't see. And sometimes that may be the case if we have a pedestrian crossing. We want to stop those vehicles in advance of the crossing, or depending on where our signage can go, we'll have that stop bar back a little bit. And the expectation would be that a motorist would stop at the stop bar and then slowly proceed forward until they gain sight. But if there are locations that you're concerned about, we can certainly take a look at those, and then we work with Jim and his crew on any type of brush or tree removal. And we've even reached out to some property owners if that sight distance is going across somebody's property on relocating some landscaping or what have you. So I would encourage you again to submit a request if there is a concern.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, and so one other point is that we often get calls about, I can't see coming out of my driveway. And as Jim talked about earlier, driveway access is it's part of your permit that was issued however long ago your driveway was put in. Site distance out of your own driveway is your responsibility as the property owner. That's not something that will come out. Sometimes our roadside mowing that pass along the side where, like I said, we do that twice along paved roads, once along unpaved roads. Sometimes that'll help. But site distance out of your own driveway is your responsibility. But yeah, like Brent said, Lois, if you've got specific information about the ones that you mentioned here, feel free to give us a call and we can put a request in for you, or you can put one right in through the website. And that's something that we can definitely investigate and take a look at. Lois has another question here in chat. And this one is about trees as well. So her question is that when we trim trees along the road, about ahead of a project, so ahead of a resurfacing project or ahead of a limestone gravel lift, do we remove tree debris that was not caused by us? So if trees have just fallen or, you know, over time it accumulates into the ditch, or is that something that we are removing as part of that project? I see Jim's unmuted. Jim, you want to go ahead?
That's a great question. That's a familiar question to me. Honestly, Lois, we don't do a good enough job of that. And it's something that I've been talking to leadership in the operations department of improving on. We try to, when we go through and we'll trim the low-hanging limbs in advance of a project, some of the larger timber will actually stack that on the roadside, a safe location. And many folks benefit from that, joining property owners even that use wood for firewood. They're welcome to have that, and they'll scavenge that those wood deposits and haul that away for their own purposes, and that's fine. But I've really been challenging the department to come back and clean up deadfall that's in the ditches from storm damage or just a trees died, limbs have fallen in the roadside. Really looking to do a better job at cleaning that up. It's simply competing with all the other needs that we have, and that's the challenge. I don't wish to make excuses, but in the reality and all the other demands on us and our limited resources, we struggle with cleaning up that right of way as well as I would like it to be done.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jim. So I think we've gotten through all the questions in chat. If there's anybody that would like to virtually raise their hand and ask a question verbally, or there's still time if you want to ask a question in chat, you can click the reactions button or the participants button and then the raise hands button. And again, you can ask a question in chat. I just put a link again to how you can subscribe to receive road updates via email. I can't say this enough. We really encourage you to check out our website and really look and see what's going on in your area. And if you're interested, subscribe to receive those updates to learn more. We put out a lot of information and are hoping that it is helpful for the people that are asking for it. All right, it looks like Lois has now raised her hand. So Lois, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to get back to my first question about ownership responsibility on unpaved roads when you come through and make it 18 inches. Because I have an asphalt driveway. And I'm just wondering what's required if I need to raise that road. And until I can get that done, can I get out of my driveway? And who does that kind of work? And what kind of costs are involved?
Lois, Lois, I think this would be a great one for one of our superintendents or district foremen to meet with you.
Okay.
These considerations are usually site specific.
Okay.
We don't wish to prevent you from accessing the road. That's not our goal. So I think we'd
understand.
be happy to meet with you.
Yeah, and Lois, if you want to provide your contact information via chat, I can share that with Jim and he can share that with his staff to talk with and to follow up with you on. Lois,
Okay.
what road do you live on?
Fleming.
Fleming. Okay. Yeah, if you want to send us your information, we can follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
Lois, that road is scheduled under contract with Dexter Township this year for 6 inches of limestone.
Correct.
So
That's why I'm raising the question.
Yep.
That's good. That's a good problem to have, is a road improvement project. So, okay. Yeah, Lois, if you want to give us your contact info, we can follow up with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I think we've gotten through all of our questions. Jim, Matt, Brent, any last final call for any information you want to share? Okay, I see a lot of heads saying no. Chip seal season is going to start. We'll start with chipping and then fogging. It's going to start in earnest next week. So we've got about 100 miles to go. It's going to be a busy season. We've got a lot of paving projects already underway. We really encourage you to check out that website, subscribe to receive those updates. If you have any questions, give us a call at our main number or the contact information for your project manager on that project itself. But we really appreciate everybody coming out today. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful week. And so we are, yeah, we're glad spring and summer are right around the corner. So thanks everybody for coming, and please give us lots of room to work out there this year.